Ah, shit!
Rorst spat out a curse when he looked at his trap. The snare had caught a hare overnight, but something had eaten it already. All that remained was a bit of bloody bone. He looked inside the bag he carried. Its paltry contents were everything he'd managed to pick up while out checking the traps this morning. A handful of shepherd's needles and mulberries and 3 fat locusts.
Well, the Fletcher has his beer.
Rorst popped the berries and the insects into his mouth and began to chew. Hunger made everything taste delicious.
Maybe I can find some more grubs at the Hanged Man.
The trapper had wanted to take the corpse down days ago, but the Fletcher insisted on leaving him up as a warning to would-be intruders. The thing stunk like nothing Rorst had ever smelled before, but the fat grave worms that sprouted on the dead man's body went down like buttercream. When Rorst got back to the manor, he sensed something was wrong. The door was shut, and there were flecks of blood on its surface and on the weedy cobblestones at the entryway.
Fletcher!
He called out.
Fletcher, are you here?
The only answer was a fly buzzing around the trapper's head. He waited a moment, then opened the door.
Hello? Fletcher!
He saw signs of a struggle on the floor. There were scuff marks in the dust, a chair was knocked over, and Fletcher's bow was discarded, its string snapped in twain. And there was more blood. Rorst propped open the door on the stone they'd been using. He set down his bag and drew his hand axe.
Is anybody here?
A sound came from the back room, beyond the stained curtain. Or had it just been the wind? It was a breezy day, after all.
I'm going for one look. Careful, too. That's all. Fletcher can't say I'm craven if I at least take a look.
Rorst stepped inside the parlor, walked to the far side of the room, and peeked behind the curtain. The ruined salon was too dim to see at first. He could only make out vague shapes of decrepit furnishings. As his eyes adjusted to the dark, he saw the Fletcher's corner. A floor stone had been pulled up and set next to the man's sleeping mat.
That's where he keeps the coffer. Is it open?
It looked like the lid to the chest was open, down there in its secret hole. Something growled from the shadows of the chamber. Rorst's heart leapt, and his instincts shot him backwards. He flung aside the curtain and bolted for the open door. Just as he reached the sunlit portal, he glanced back.
What was that?
There had been someone there. Something staggering beyond the curtain. It had an ill look to it, hobbled, furry, too dark to distinguish in the dim room. Rorst ran out into the street of the ruined town.
Damn Gafulia! Damn the money!
His legs pumped, sending him past crumbling buildings that once supported the bustling settlement.
And damn the Fletcher!
No amount of coin was worth this kind of trouble. He fled Gafulia to the north. He had no plan other than to collect his traps and continue on. Whatever had happened back at the manor this morning, he wanted no part in it.
I've stolen from street vendors,
spied on girls bathing,
lied 1,000 lies. But this is all too far. Ambition is death trap.
Rorst had already slowed his pace, but now he had to stop. He sat down among a thicket and panted out his fatigue. His legs burned and sweat dripped down his brow. After resting for half of an hour, he got back up and thought upon the 4 spots he had his traps set.
Just pick them up, then head for the hills north of here. There's fish in that stream.
His belly rumbled at the thought of roasted fish.
Might be I can find some fennel or mustard to go with it.
Rorst spent the rest of the morning collecting his traps. After that, he trekked northbound, chewing on shepherd's needles as he went. It was late in the day by the time he found the creek in the hills. He managed to catch only a spiny little baffa and a crawfish. That night, he made camp on top of a hill, underneath a large pine tree. His popping campfire smoldered down to coals long before he was able to find sleep. Rorst blinked a few times. His eyes did not want to open.
I told you to stop waking me.
He stopped his slurred speech as he remembered he was no longer inside the manor at Guffolia.
Fletcher?
He felt a bit ridiculous asking for the man. More so, he hoped that whatever had made that noise was his comrade.
It could be him.
Rorst tried to convince himself. The Fletcher could have tracked him down. The man was tenacious and skilled enough.
Fletcher! Was that you?
The wind was howling at the top of the hill. The day's breezes had chased away all the warmth and left the land chilled. Rorst fumbled with his flint and steel, striking sparks while trying to cover them from the gusts. Thump! Something hit the ground just nearby.
What was that?
There was another sound. Something up on the wind. Again, Rorst struck at the flint.
There it is again!
The noise, like the flapping of wings in the air above the pine. Rorst adjusted how he was crouching, and he hit the steel bolt against the flint stick once more. This time, his torch took to light. He lifted up the blazing haft, its flames whipping in the wind. There, lying on the ground a few feet away, was the head of a sheep. The animal's expression was pure agony, and its neck ended in a darkly crusted stump.
Ah!
Rorst shrieked. A figure swooped down from the winds. It was like a man, covered in blackish fur, with bat wings for arms and a grotesque, fanged mouth. The thing landed on all fours and growled. Its eyes glinted in the flames. Rorst's chest nearly burst asunder. He sprinted away from the horror, over the crest of the hill, and began down the slope. The yellow-orange torchlight wavered back and forth, making it difficult to distinguish shadows from solid objects. The monstrosity called from behind. Terror jilted the fleeing man, sending his legs in a panic. His foot landed poorly upon a loose rock, and he went tumbling down the hillside. A half-exposed boulder struck his ribs with a crack and brought him to a halt. An instant later, the fiend was upon him, tearing into his flesh with its teeth and its claws.